All right, so much for everything I've already said. Apologize, I thought I had it unmuted, so thank you for the reminder that I'm muted. I guess I should have noticed Mike's comment a minute before, so. All right, perfect. Okay, so what I was showing before when there was no sound was just how to access the Moxi Engage system, and I was saying there's two different ways to do it. One is through 21 Online, which is what I just took through the step-by-step to get to. The other way that you can access the Engage is if you open a new window, you can always just type in engage.century21.com. And then when you hit enter, it will take you to the login screen. Since I'm already logged in, it's bypassing that for me. But so those two different ways. One is through go to 21 Online and log in. Then you're going to go to the menu, Productivity Hub, and then go scroll down to any of the things that say Moxi. It'll take you into right here. So pretty much that's what you guys missed while I was muted. So apologize for that. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm just going to walk you through an overview basically of the system, and then we'll get into what I think is the most important thing you can do inside of the system. And in fact, I will tell you that if you will do the one piece that I'm going to show you at the end, which is the neighborhood news, you will do transactions from your sphere of influence just by doing that, even if you do nothing else with them. So anyway, where we'll start with is when you first log in, it's going to bring you to this dashboard. And I just want to walk you through what's on the dashboard and then how you can manage that dashboard. So the first thing when you first log in is it's going to give you this stay and flow. The idea of stay and flow is the system is designed, and I love this part of the Moxi Engage system, is it is designed to help you stay in touch with your sphere of influence. And what I mean by that is this stay and flow will offer up to you, here are 5 people that you should call today. Or I guess in this case, it's only showing 4 right here, but if I slide over, there's the 5th. So here's the 5 people you should call today. Now, how that's going to work on this stay and flow, if you click on this gear icon right here, then you're going to choose what the cadence is you want that to look like. So you can say, I want to stay in touch with everyone in my database every 30 days, every 60 days, or 90. And the default is on 90 days. So adjust it to whatever you want. The next piece is you want it to surface these people. So it's saying, what are the people that you want it to offer up to show right here, the 5 people each day? And you're going to choose from either people that are pending, active, prospects, marketing, past seller, past buyer, leads, new, uncategorized, personal, or collaborators. So you're going to just decide, and we'll talk more about what each of those represent, the prospects, the marketing, and those type of things as we go through, because every contact you put in the system, you're going to want to identify them as one of those. So this idea of this settings piece is, what are the people that you wanted to offer up and show to you to make the contacts with? So hopefully that makes sense. So you'll just decide what that's going to look like. Hey, Luz. So that's the stay and flow. The next thing down is the activity feed. The activity feed is going to show you what activity has gone on within your system and the days. So you can see it's showing here for me that one neighborhood news email was sent on the 14th. And then you can see the other ones that have happened. But same thing with this. If I click on this gear icon, I can keep track of what is the activity that I want it to show me. So you can select or deselect any of these and the time frame that you want it to be. Is it just the last 3 days, week, 2 weeks, or the month? So however you want to do that. So that's going to offer up to you to show you, here's what activity's going on. The next thing down on the dashboard is your to-do list. So as you put in reminders and things, you can set up tasks or transaction tasks. So you can see I'm on the My Tasks, but there's also a transactions task that you can have monitoring in here as well, which you can see I'm behind on some apparently. But so that's this to-do section. As you put in things, it'll pop up there, and then you can also see when you've got completed ones that you can do a drop down to see what those look like. Okay? The next thing down is your calendar for the day, which just reminded me, I totally skipped one of the important pieces of this whole thing. So the very first time you log in, so we need to rewind for a minute here and go back to the very first time you log in, it is going to ask you for what email address you want to use with the system. And the option, it's going to give you two options, but really you technically technically you have two options, but I would say look at it as you really only have one option. Okay, so it's going to give you two options. And the two options that it's going to give you from is Outlook or Gmail. And the Outlook one, unless you are using, which we have very, very few people that use this, if you're using your @C21 Everest as your main email, meaning that you're logging, you actually log in and send emails from that, then you could select that. But like I said, we have very, very few people that actually do use that. Everyone else just has that. My @C21 Everest is a forwarding. It forwards on to your whatever your email address is. So really, the only option you really have is Gmail. So you want to select Gmail. Now, before you do that, though, the one other thing you want to make sure of is that you're okay with that Gmail being connected with this system. And here's why I say that is once you, whatever Gmail account you use to log in from this, so there's a twofold thing. One is any email you send out of Engage is going to go from that email. But the other piece, and this is the part that I always want to emphasize, but because I occasionally have agents that will not want it to do this, but any contacts that you have associated with that Gmail will get automatically fed into the Engage system. So typically what I recommend for people to do is if you've got a ton of people in your phone that you don't want into Engage for whatever reason, then you might want to set up a separate Gmail account that you would use for this. So anyway, up to you. You can, and I'll show you what to do of if you do attach and want to use your main Gmail, but you don't want all the people in there. I'll show you how you can get them out of the system as well. But just that's kind of the disclaimer that I always want to make sure everybody knows, because I've had a few people go put their Gmail in there and then they're later on coming back and saying, I got all these people in there and I don't want all those people. And so anyway, so just know it, whatever Gmail account you use, whatever contacts are associated with that will get fed into there. So that's how that's going to work. Okay. So now with that, the other thing that will show up is this calendar is going to show up. Anything that is on the calendar that you've also used for that Gmail will show up right here as well. So just as a reminder on that as well. Okay. All right, the next thing down is the sales flow. Think about this sales flow as being a funnel. Okay, so this is where your sales funnel, technically, I guess is what you would call it, is this sales flow. So as you put people into the system, and again, I'll show you once we get into the actual people part of this, you're going to assign those people to one of these stages, either the marketing stage, a prospect stage, an active, or a pending phase. And then once you've done that, and as you're working through the system and working the people in the system, this sales flow would be here on your dashboard where you can at a glance see kind of here's how many people I'm working with that are then becoming prospects, who are then active clients, who are then pendings. Okay. So that's going to be what this sales flow is at a glance, you can kind of see what's happening with your sales funnel. Okay. Next then is your goals completion. So the other thing the system is going to do the first time you log in it's gonna ask you to set a GCI goal. So you're gonna put in a goal as to what you want your gross commission income to be. And then the system throughout the year, as you have closings, is gonna keep track. So you can see it's showing on mine that I'm at 3% of what I had put the goal in of being. And you can see also that it's showing here, you know, that how much commission you've made towards what your GCI goal is going to be. So, which that's kind of cool. So just at a glance, you can come in and see on the dashboard, are you on track for your goals or not? And you can see I'm way off track since we're almost June and I'm at 3%, should be close to 50. So, anyway. All right. The next thing down here is going to be your listings. So any active and pending listings that you have would be showing there, but you can also click on this, which would bring up any of your sold listings as well. Okay. So that is the dashboard. Now, the other thing to point out on this for you before we leave the dashboard is over here has the order that these will show up. And so if for whatever reason I was like, no, I want my sales flow to show up on top, I can drag it up and now you can see sales flow is showing on top. So wherever you want that to be, you can just drag these around. That will be the order that it's going to show up for you right here. Yeah. All right. Next is, so the next thing we're going to do is go to the people section. And so this is where we're going to spend most of the time on this, is me walking you through this part of it. So I'm going to come just down to the my people part here, which the overview I'll pull up real quick is just going to, again, shows you the sales flow, and then it brings up some people with some recommended actions that you could do. So, but I'm going to skip that for now because I'm going to show you something else that you're going to want to do first. So under this people, my people section. Now, again, once you import people in, if you already have them into that Gmail, like we talked about, once you log in with the Gmail, it's going to bring them in. It might take a couple of hours, depending on how many people you have. Could be pretty quick, might take a couple of hours. But once they're in and you go to the My People section, it's going to show all of the people. And you can see right here, it's showing on mine that I've got 560 people in the system. So now that I have the people there from that, or let me show you the other way you can get them in, is up here is this little gear icon that if you click on, it has a spot that you can import contacts. And then there's a CSV file that you can download right here. So if you have all of your database in it already in a spreadsheet, you could take them, move the columns to line up with what this CSV file is, and then you can import people that way as well. Okay. And then the other way you can do it is adding them one at a time, which would be just, you know, single contacts, typing in their information here. All right, now that I have the people in, I'm going to go back to this My People section. Once I have them in here, the next thing that I'm going to want to do that I would recommend for you guys is that you come over here to this Categorize Wizard. And when you click on Categorize Wizard, that's going to pop up then all of the people that you have in the system that are uncategorized. So this is how now I'm going to get those people to fall into that sales funnel, or what's called here is that sales flow. So what I would do is I would come down here then, and I'm going to just go and look at these people. So this Alan is an agent here at our office. So he's not going to be a client. So I'm going to click non-client. And then it says, is he a personal? Is he a collaborator? Or do I want to just remove him from Engage? Well, he's an agent here. So I really don't want him in my Engage system. So I'm just going to click remove from Engage. It's just going to say, are you sure you basically want to do that? I say yes. So now he's removed. This Ariana is an agent with another company. And so same thing with her. Most of these people are all going to be agents that I have in here. So I'm just going to do remove. Audrey is George's assistant. So I don't want her in there. I'm going to remove. But then the next one is, this one's a guy that I added recently into my phone who lives not too far away from me. So this will be a good one for me to use as an example to show you. So on him, I'm gonna say, okay, he's a client. So now once I click on client, you can see the options that it's giving me is create a marketing plan, make him a seller prospect, make him a buyer prospect, or go back. So let me explain what the difference is. So the create a marketing plan is, think about in the system when it on that sales flow, the first section was marketing. So the idea of is these are the people that I'm marketing to try to them to get to become a prospect. Okay. So with this Brad, I'm going to say, yeah, he would be somebody that if he decides to do real estate, I want him to use me. So I'm going to click on this create a marketing plan. If he was somebody who had contacted me already and said, hey Russ, we're thinking about buying or selling, then I would make him as a prospect. So think of it that way, as a prospect is just somebody that's thinking about it. They haven't made a decision yet as to like timing of it, but they're saying we're thinking about it. So marketing is somebody that hasn't expressed interest yet. Prospect is somebody who has. And so then if it was a prospect, I either make him a seller or a buyer. Okay. So I'm going to create this marketing plan. Then it asks, is he a past seller, a past buyer, a past seller and a buyer, or none of these? Well, I haven't done real estate with this guy, so I'm going to just say he's none of these. Okay. And then now it's asking me, okay, you want to keep this person top of mind with a marketing plan? Yep, that's the whole idea. So I click create plan. And then I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So that's how I'm going to be doing these is coming through. And again, these are all non-clients. So let me get rid of, see if I can get one other one here. Yeah, that's good enough. You get the idea. So, but here's the point. So with having those people, once you pull up this categorize wizard, it makes it very quick to where I can just come through non-client, remove from engage, remove. You can see how I'm getting these people either removed from the system or getting them set up on as a, and all of these happen to be agents. So this is not doing that great for me. I was hoping maybe I'd find one more. Anyway, you get the point, right? All right, so now I'm going to go back to the my people section. So now that I have the people in there, I've gone through and categorized them. So you'll want to do that. And even if you don't go through and categorize everybody all at once, at least set aside some time to go, okay, I'm going to go through and get everyone categorized so that you either remove them from the system, you have them in, which you can see I was at 560, and now that I removed a bunch, I'm at 552 from out of the system. So ultimately, you just want to go through and get all the people categorized.
So Ross,
yes,
in this 552, were those all your SOI or?
Those are all just people that I had saved in my phone. So just contacts that are in my cell phone. Which is, and again, most of them are real estate agents because for the last 20 plus years, I've added a lot of agents into my phone. So yeah, a lot of these 500 are just people, agents and things. So, but the idea would be get rid of the ones that you don't want to keep in there and have this then be your sphere of influence. That's yeah, that's what you want to accomplish.
That's why we don't want it to have it, like you said, connected because everybody will appear in there.
Right. Yeah, but it's still fine. If you want to use that Gmail and put all the people in, just know you're going to have to go through and do what I did, which is just remove them out of engage, like how we did there. So that's where you just have to decide, do I want a different Gmail that doesn't have all the people, or do I want to put all the people and then I'll go through and clear them out? So it's whichever route you want to go. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to show you guys is how to put them into groups and stuff as well. Okay. So the next option that you have within the system is there are groups. So the idea of the groups is going to be a way for you to keep track of people in collectively. So for example, let's say that I had a group maybe from my neighborhood. So in my own neighborhood, so I'm going to go into edit groups here, which I already have it in here, but I live in the Ivory Highlands. Is the neighborhood I live in. So I've created a group that is called Ivory Highlands. So that as I go through and put people in, I could then put the people who live in my neighborhood in that group, so that if I ever wanted to do an email or some type of a blast to the people that just lived in my neighborhood, I could do it based on that group. Does that make sense? And in fact, let me even highlight, because since the last time I taught this class, one of the things that I learned is that is how, if you want to do like a blast email to a bunch of people, the only way you can do it is through groups, meaning, or individual. You'd have to go in and type each person individual. But once you have them in groups, even if you just wanted to create a group that was called all, and then you put every one of your contacts in that all group, then you could send a mass email by selecting that all group, and it would go out to them. So,
because initially, could we just do like an SOI group? Or
Yeah.
the all that you're saying,
yep,
but later could it be modified? Like, okay, I want to get a few people or categorize them better.
yep, yeah, and you can do as many groups as you want. So, you could create one that was, let's see, buyers over 2 million, whatever. I could just create whatever I want to create groups. And then when I get somebody who would be a buyer over 2 million, I put them in that. Then that way I can go knock on doors for listings that are around 2 million and say, I got 55 people that are buyers looking for a property over 2 million, whatever, however you want to do it. But that's how the groups work. So you can create, and under this edit groups is where you would create all the groups that you want to have for that. And then from there, within each individual, you could then assign them to whichever groups you want to put them in. That makes sense? Okay. All right. Next thing. So the next thing that we're going to do is I want to go through and show you within the actual contacts. The problem that, well, it's not really necessarily a problem for you guys, but I'm going to use a contact that is not a real person. And the reason for that is the last couple of times I've taught this class, I've used actual people to show you how to set stuff up, which I like doing it that way, because I actually have done transactions from this, just teaching a class and setting people up on what I'm going to show you guys. I've actually ended up doing transactions with those people because of setting them up. That's why I'm like saying, if you'll do what I'm going to show you, you'll make money. Because I've made money just teaching a class and not intentionally like trying to market to the people, but just setting them up. The problem is we post all these classes on YouTube now. And if I show any personal identifiable information, then YouTube blocks it. So I'm going to use a fake contact, which I hate doing because I actually like the chance of getting a deal from this class. But I'm going to use a fake one so that hopefully they won't block me. We'll see what happens this time. All right, so I'm just going to do a search for. I've created a contact in here, just called it Moxi Engage, and put in 555-555 as a phone number. So hopefully YouTube will get that that's not really personal identifiable information. Let's see. Why it's being slow. Refresh the page. Let's start again. Okay, let's try it again. Oops, gotta type it right. Okay, so here's this contact that I've created that's called Moxi Engage. Okay, so I'm gonna click on that. So now, if I have already categorized the people, then it would be showing the category they're in. But this, since I just created this person this morning, this Moxi Engage person, that they're not yet categorized. So the first step that it's going to give me when I go into the contact is the option of doing that. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You could just leave it like this, but I'm going to do it just so that I can show you guys. So I'm going to click on client. So again, it's asking, do I want a marketing plan, make a seller prospect, or make a buyer prospect? I'm going to do create a marketing plan. And again, it's asking what type of past client they were. It's none of these. So I'm gonna click create plan. Now, what you're gonna notice here is now they're showing here as part of the marketing plan. And as a result, it has come up with some tasks for me to do as them being under this marketing plan. Which, so you can go in and modify these. I'm not gonna go through that piece of it today in this class, but you can go through and change what this tasks show up as. You can create it to be what you want within there. So you just go into the settings portion of this and you can go through and modify so that you can have it be exactly what you want the tasks to be. But you can see now up here, this is in black and it's showing that this person is in the marketing section. And right here, it was where I could click on to make this person a prospect. So I'll show you what that looks like. So if I click on make this person a prospect, it's now going to ask, are they a buyer or a seller? So I would select whichever one that is that they are. Okay. Then from there, if I knew an MLS number, I could put it in there. I can put in areas of interest, the target price, beds, baths, all that kind of stuff, because I've selected buyer. If I switch it to seller, then it just has information for me to put in what their information about their property. Okay. So whatever it is, I would go through, put it in, and then just click done. And what you'll notice then is it's going to take me back and it's going to move this person now from the marketing section. You can see that's checked off. And now they're in the prospect section. And then it's got the 8 tasks that I have set up for when somebody goes to that. So part of what you're going to want to do with this is go through and set up what are the tasks you want the system to remind you of for somebody that's in the marketing. What are the tasks you want it to remind you of for somebody who's a prospect? And then if this person now has become active, I could click this move to the active. And it says, once you move this transaction forward, you can't return to the prospect zone. You sure you want to go forward? Yes. Okay. So now it's checked off marketing and prospect. It's got them in the active. And then based on, because I selected that it was a buyer under the prospect section, here's the tasks that are set up for you to do as part of a active person. And then the same thing you would do to move them to pay. Yeah. So what happens though if something does fall apart? You saw that I couldn't move them back to a prospect status. But if I come in and click on this drop down here, I can delete or deactivate the transaction. So I'm going to say yes, do that. And let's say delete. You're about to permanently delete. Are you sure? Yes. So now they're moved out of that transaction. Okay. All right. So that's how you would handle within the contact of where they are in the flow of all those things. Then the next things that I'm just going to show you real quick is this profile. So the profile is where you're going to keep track of their phone number, email address, their home address, and any of that profile information. A notes section is where you could come in and just type in some notes for yourself. Whatever you want to type in, you know, about maybe what their search criteria was, if it's a buyer or whatever. You would put in there. The activity section is going to keep track of the stuff that's gone on within it. So you can see that here it's showing that they were moved from activities to an eliminated zone. So it'll keep track of that. And if you want to create some custom activity, this is where you would do it. So this would be the spot that this part I don't care for as much on the system. I always feel like this notes section, it should be where you would type all of your notes, but that's not real. This would just be more of like a one-time note kind of a thing. The activity section is where you would want to go to keep track of, like, I talked to this person, this is what we talked about or whatever. Because if I do this, create a custom activity, you can see it's going to put in the date and time that all took place. Versus the other note, there's no date and time associated with it. And if I type in a note and put it in there, it's there, but there's not another spot to put a note, so I would have to go to edit and I would change the note. Does that make sense? So if you're wanting to do multiples, you would do it under this create custom activity. Type in whatever you're going to, and other or we met in person and this is what we talked about, however you want to do it, but that's where it's then going to keep track of everything. So that's the activity section is where you'd want to keep notes and stuff that you want timestamped. Okay. And then the favorites and saves, if they have a search set up or you want to set one up for them, this is where it would show up as, and any properties that they've favorited from your website would show up here as well. All right. Now we're going to get into the most important thing. If you don't remember anything else we've talked about, make sure you remember this, okay? Because this is where, when I said to you that I've made money teaching these classes, it's because of what I'm going to show you next, okay? So what you want to do is with every person that you put into the system, you want to go through and put them on these subscriptions, okay? So I'm going to click on add subscription here. And then there's two different options. So I'm going to explain both of them to you, but I'm going to do the neighborhood news second. I'm going to do listing announcements first. Listing announcements, at least to me, was not what it sounds like. And so I guess we'll see if I'm an anomaly. So when you hear listing announcements without reading what it says, what comes to your mind of what that would do?
New listings that are coming into the market.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, is you would think that this is like, I'm going to put them on a subscription to receive new listings that hit the market.
In their neighborhood, right?
Yeah, but that's not what this is. Listing announcements is to send to any people you put on listing announcements. It will send them an announcement when you list a property, wherever. So and I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's bad. It's just not what I thought it was. So you'll notice it says here, subscribe people to listing announcements to show off your recent listings and sales to your past, present, and future clients. So send just listed and or just sold email announcements to your clients. So think of it that way. This is more of a just listed or a just sold that you're going to subscribe people to, that it's letting them know you just listed a property. Okay. So that's what the listing announcements is. Now, neighborhood news, though, is the one where this is where the rubber hits the road. This is the thing that will make you money. And I'm always hesitant because I don't want you to think that you don't have to work, because you got to work. But this will do a lot of work for you. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to add neighborhood news to the people. So every person that you put in the system, I would recommend going and setting them up on neighborhood news. Now, when we were using Zap before the Moxi system, it had something similar to this. And that was the one where I'm telling you, teaching the class, I had gone through and I would set people up on that. And then later on, I would notice they were searching. And I called the guy and he was like, yeah, we're thinking we want to sell our house and buy a new one. And I ended up helping him sell his house and buy a new one. And would have he called me anyway? Maybe. But it's also possible that he wouldn't have. And the nice thing about this is it's just going to alert you to the fact they're starting to do something. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click on add subscription. And then there's two options from this. I can either do a quick or I can do a custom. So I would recommend that you do the custom, but you could do the quick, is fine too. The quick, if you click on it, is just going to bring up, and it's going to have, their email address, their zip code, and you're basically going to hit done and it's set up and subscribed. I just don't feel like that's the best way to do it. And in fact, let me tell you quickly a story of why I'm so passionate about this. Is this was probably 1998 or 1999. I had been in real estate for a couple of years, and a guy came to our office trying to sell a software program. And he said, as part of this sales job that he did to us, he said, hey, for free, I'm going to give to you guys the best idea that you could use for marketing to your sphere of influence. And he said, none of you are going to do it. I'm going to give you, and this guy traveled the country, going into real estate offices like every day, all across the country. He said, I'm going to give to you the very best marketing idea I have ever heard for working your sphere of influence. And he said, and none of you are going to do it. Well, that's all I had to hear. And I was like, I don't care what he says, I am going to do it. And so then he proceeded to tell us the best thing you could do for your sphere of influence is send to them in the area that they live. Here are the homes that are for sale. Here's the ones that are under contract. And here are the solds. He said, that's the best marketing you could do to your sphere of influence. And none of you are going to do it. And I said, I'm doing it. And I did it. And I will tell you, it was the best thing ever. So when then software programs now came out and had the ability to do that, I am a huge proponent of it because, again, I believe it creates you as the neighborhood expert for these people. And the other thing I learned by doing that is I had a lady that I had worked with before I came into real estate. I'd worked with her at a bank, and she lived in Holiday in the A La Chapelle condos, if you know where that's at, Holiday. Well, I had set her up on this, and I would send to her every single month any condo that sold in A La Chapelle. I would send to her, here's what's for sale, here's what's under contract, and here's what's sold. And where I really learned the power of this was from her. Her name was Chris. I got a phone call one day from Chris, and she was mad at me. And she was like, Russ, I can't believe you. And I was like, what? And she said, you sold the condo right next to me, and you didn't even stop and knock on my door and say hi. And I was like, Chris, I didn't sell the condo next to you. And she says, yes, you did. I got your newsletter that you mail me every month, and it showed that you sold the one next to me. And I said, oh, yeah, no, I didn't sell that. I'm just letting you know about it. She was like, oh, I thought you sold it. And that's when I realized what happens with this is the people you're sending this to think you're the one listing and selling all of these houses. It gives you a ton of credibility. And so that's what I love about this. All right, so that's the reason I recommend doing a custom. If you do just the zip code, it's going to send them a ton of information. And I don't want to send them a ton.
Like what?
Of properties. So I'll show you. I'll show you what I mean. I want it to be more targeted. So that's why you want to use this custom targeted search. So I'm going to click on go.
So did you do that by person?
Yes.
By group of
Pardon.
people?
No, I'm going to do it per person. Yep. So it's going to take a little time for you to set up initially, but I'm telling you, it's worth the time that you spend it. Okay, so I've put in here and I've clicked on that custom. Now you'll notice it brought up the zip code that I had put in for the person. So let me cancel and go back out here. Remember, so on here, it brought this up and it brought up, here's a preview of that zip code, which again, I'm using one that hopefully YouTube will recognize is not really real personal information. But if I were to go in here and just put in the zip code of the office here and did a search, it's now done or doing this blue line that's going across this search around here. Here's Midvale. Well, so it's brought up now all of these properties, and that's just too many. That's why I'm saying I don't want to do it as a zip code. Zip code's better than nothing. So if you're going to do nothing, do a zip code. But for me, I think you're better off to come in here and to put in some information or a property address in here. So I'll just put in the office address here. So now it's done the search and brought up just kind of around this. But what you want to do is come over here on this, either the schools or the draw. So typically you're probably going to want to do the draw. And what I would recommend that you do is when you click on that, it's going to give you a quick draw or a multi-draw. I usually do multi-draw. So now I can draw however I want this to look. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. Well, we'll just do it this way. Let me actually go back out. So I'm just going to say that I want it to only bring up properties that fit within right here. So you can see I could go, however I want to draw that. So now what it's gonna do is it's brought up only properties that fit the boundaries of what I just drew in there. So that's why for me, here's what I recommend, and this is how I did it when I first started doing this before we had a computer system that was doing it. I had a spreadsheet that I went through and I called every person on my SOI and said, I'm gonna send you every month the actives, the under contracts and the solds. What do you want me to, where, what neighborhood do you want it to be? Do you want it to be the one you live in? Do you want it to be one you're interested in? Whatever you want. They gave me, which almost always it was their own personal neighborhood. So I would just go in on the map, draw out that, well, let me back up. I didn't draw it out because I didn't have it. My assistant would go onto the MLS and just put in the coordinates to get their neighborhood. And then she would pull it and then send to them, here's the actives, under contracts and solds. Well, this is going to do that for you. So a couple of ways you can go about this. And again, as a reminder, this is being recorded, so you can go back and review as I'm saying this. But you can either do it for just their neighborhood, or if they wanted it to be more of like a CMA on their house, you could do a big area, like a 1 mile radius, and then you could use these filters up here to say only include houses in this price range, or only properties that have this many beds and baths, or you can use only square footage. But you can also do it for single family. So you can see all of these are selected. I might say, well, I don't want it to do manufactured or multi-family, but I do want it to do condos and townhouses. I don't know. Maybe you don't want that either. So you take those off. Do just single family. Let's see what that does. So that got rid of a few out of there. Okay. And then you can see it shows these actives and which ones are sold. So ultimately, you're just going to decide on the map where you want it to be, decide if you want to filter it down. Probably, like I said, you'll probably want to filter it down at least to, if they live in townhouses, to maybe only show townhouses and however. But the biggest thing is have a conversation with the people and say, I'm going to send to you for your neighborhood or wherever you want properties that are for sale, under contract or sold, and what is the information you want to see? Now, here's the thing I would recommend. Don't get it so tight that it doesn't send them anything. Like have it be to where it's going to be monthly sending them some properties so that you're staying in front of them as the expert of their neighborhood. And again, like I said, they're going to start to relate to that you listed all these properties, you sold all these properties. You become the neighborhood expert for them.
So can it be that drawing that you did, can it be managed like the MLS, that it can be a radius of so many miles in a square or in a circle?
So there's not a spot to put in a radius, but you could go draw on it like like I was showing you. You just do this draw and then multi-draw, and then you just click and make it. You can make it whatever size you want. With that, if I didn't have this in there, it shows basically whatever map, the size of the map. So because I have this, it's not going to change. It's going to keep it where it's at. But typically, the more you zoom out, the more properties are going to show up here. So like I said, it's kind of a fine line. You don't want it to have too many, but you also don't want it to have too few, because then it defeats its purpose.
Right or none?
So, all right. Yep, go ahead.
Question. Is there a copy of what it sends?
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So that's the next step. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, so you hit click next, and then once you do next on this, it should be. Did I click it? It's not doing anything. All right, let me start over. I don't know what happened there. Or maybe I'm having internet issues. And now it's doing nothing. You refresh the page. Okay. Put the address in here, we'll just do another quick draw here with some stuff. Let me see the family. Okay. So now I've got these properties here. I'm gonna click next. So the next thing it brings up is what email address is it gonna go to? I only have one email address in there, so you can see that it's just brought that one up. If you had multiple email addresses, this would be a drop down, so you could select which email address you wanted it to go to. Then I click next. It's gonna bring up, here's the language, the message, so you could modify the message if you want. Then I click next. And they have, oh, there we go. I was gonna say they've updated this because it was supposed to give me a copy showing me what's gonna say. But it was just slow. So there it is. So here's what it's brought up is showing, here's the custom boundary. There's 7 listings for them. Here's the email that's going to be sent to them. And then here's the properties. And you can see that it's got 2 different ones. Or it won't let me click on it since I'm just in preview. Yeah. So this is just a preview, so you can see here are the properties. If they want to view more listings, they would click on it there. Here's the trends for the surrounding market, what's going on. And then it always, every month is going to send to them, here's how many listings there are. And it's, so in this case, it's saying that for this month, the number of listings is down 6%. The number of solds is up 3%. What the median price has done for the actives and the solds, if it's up or down for their area, which so that, yeah, so let me actually clarify that. So the properties that it sends, these are only going to be the ones that are in the boundaries. But this information all right here is going to be based on the zip code. So it still does do it based on the zip code that you've selected. And so it's showing the median sold prices are $17,000 higher than the median active prices, which that's interesting. So this is what it'll look like for them. It'll look a little different, meaning it's not going to be in 2 columns like what you're seeing right here. But this is just so you can kind of see. So then you'd hit send to Moxi Engage.
So I could put my husband in there if I want to test it.
Yes, in fact,
See what
yes, in fact, I would recommend put yourself in as a contact and go set this up for yourself. So that every month you are going to get it and see what it looks like.
What it's doing.
Yeah, yep. Now, so now that we have set them up on the neighborhood news, you can see right here, it shows the active subscription, shows the email address that it was a custom boundary, it was sent today, and it was created today, and the next time it's going to send is 1 month from today. So whatever day that you set these up is the day every day of that month. So like, because we set it up on the 16th of every month, it will go to that person. So if tomorrow so that's the other thing where you may want to do this, where you set it up a few people every day, maybe you do 5 or 10 or whatever a day until you get them all set up, is so that you don't have it just blasting everybody all at once, unless you wanted to do that. But I always liked the idea of it sending it out to them, a few a day kind of a thing, because then I can keep track. If all of a sudden a bunch of people started to do something, they aren't just calling me all at once too, I guess is the other idea. So anyway, however you want to do it.
So you kind of stages, because whatever results you are getting, you don't want to get it all at once, is that why?
That's just my thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. If you send them all out at once, when I was doing this, before I was doing it on a computer and my assistant would do it, and we actually created an actual newsletter that we then took to the post office and mailed, we did them all at once. So it's fine to do that. But my thinking is to have them spread out, because you also want to call these people. And so I liked the idea of spreading it out, and then you can call them like a few days after it's sent the email and just say, hey, just want to make sure you got my email and blah, blah, blah. Versus if I call them almost a whole month later, they're not going to remember if they got it.
So it's kind of for your own convenience.
Yes, meet my own convenience. So this more drop down is where I could go and preview it, edit it, send it again, or remove. Okay. So if I preview, that's gonna bring it up again into this preview section, which we already kind of looked at right there, which here's the preview of what the email looks like. With the information. Okay. Now, you can set up more than one. So if you have people that have investment properties that they want to keep an eye on those areas, or for whatever reason they want to keep an eye on another one, I could do add new, and then it gives me the option of a quick or a custom again. And so you could set up multiples of neighborhood news. But I'm telling you, if you will get the people into the system and then set them up on neighborhood news, even if you don't do anything else, it will generate money for you. And I'm not saying like next month necessarily, like the one guy that I set up on this, it was about, I don't know, 9 months later-ish. After I had set him up, that I noticed in the system, he all of a sudden started looking at the emails and going in and searching my website. And I was like, yeah, it's time to call this guy and see what's going on. So I called him, and he had gotten married right before I helped him buy the property, and they now had 2 kids, and he was like, we need a bigger house. So anyway, so that's the neighborhood news. The last section that I want to show you guys is under the, again, I'm under the, I clicked on this person that I've titled Moxi Engage.
So, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
So if we went door knocking and found one person that wanted to say, yeah, it's okay if you have my email, blah, blah, blah. This would be a good thing to.
100%.
For them.
Yes, yeah, if you, in your prospecting, you go out door knocking, and I would say to people when I knock on their doors, I have a select group of people that I stay in touch with. I'd like to add you to the list. What that means is I'll send you an email once a month with here's what's going on in your area, so that you can keep an eye on properties, values, and know what's going on in terms of real estate. And they'll say, yeah, sure, great, give me your email address. I'd come put them in here, set them up on the neighborhood news, let it start doing its thing. Yep. All right, last thing that I was going to show you guys today is just the groups. So we had gone through and created the groups. Now for this person, I'm just going to click on add to groups, and then it gives me the options of the ones that I want to do. And let's just say that this person's ready to buy. So I selected it, click done. And now they're in that ready to buy group. So if I ever wanted to so let me show you how you would use the groups. So now that I've created a group, I could come here to my people where it's showing 552, and I can say, I want to filter this down by people who are in my Ivy Highlands neighborhood. So now you can see it's taken it from 552 to now there's just 4 people there. And I could go through and do whatever work I want to do with that group of people. That makes sense? All right, questions? I don't want to overwhelm you, you're welcome.
It went out of my mind. I have a question I wanted to ask you. I can't remember.
Okay,
For the life of
for you
me.
guys on Zoom, any questions? Okay, well, thanks for being on. Like I said, even if you don't do anything else, go and get your people in, get them set up on neighborhood news, start to make some money.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Okay,
There is lenders that have a system that you can co-brand with them,
yeah,
and they will do kind of like that. What will be more convenient or better to do? Do it yourself with Moxi, or try to co-brand with a lender?
Yeah, good question. I would personally say, I think for this, just the thing that's good about doing this is it's all information they're interested in. Like I used to, before I started doing this, I sent a newsletter out, but the newsletter that I sent out to people was just random stuff that I think people didn't really care about. Unless they happen to care about whatever that one was, but every month they care about what's going on real estate in their neighborhood. And so for me, rather than co-brand, I mean, rather than worry about co-branding, it's more of like, I'm not trying to sell you anything, it's just I'm showing you I'm the market expert. So,
Well, that's.
yeah, so
Alright.
that's just my opinion. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, no class Thursday. Because we have the summit that's all day at the Larry Miller campus, lunch included. So plan for that. Okay, talk to you guys later.